Mark, welcome. I'm glad you took the time to be with me today. I'm with Mark Fidgett, owner of CrossBorderRealty.com. And Mark, you've got offices in Phoenix, Las Vegas, Calgary, and Toronto. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And Mark, I know you've worked extensively with Ozzie Jurek, and I'm sure the viewers out there know who Ozzie is. He's an icon in the investment industry. And what I really liked about you, and the reason I wanted to get you on here, is that you're from Canada, you're Canadian, and you really understand the process that we as Canadians go through compared to what's happening right now in the US. And I know you've been doing this for years, and a day doesn't go by where a client doesn't ask me about buying in the US, or I don't read something in the newspaper. And I wanted to talk to you about, like today, kind of like that perfect storm that we're seeing, a trifecta, if you will. Historically low rates here in Canada, Canadian dollar virtually at par with the US, and as you know, a drop in the US prices like we've never seen before. So if you will, take a moment, talk to my client, you know, like, where do they start? Where are they going to find a property?
Sure. Well, thanks for having me, Mark. Appreciate it. The first place they're going to go is typically a lot of people who come to us go to our website first, CrossBorderRealty.com, and they'll look in two different search engines. We have one called Listing Book, and we have the other which is like an MLS search. So they'll go directly into into the search engine and find properties. So they'll put in a criteria that they're looking for, whether it be a two bath condo, which is a very popular one, or maybe a 3 or 4 bed, 2 bath home that they're looking at for an investment or a second home. And then what they'll do through there is they'll get an idea of the properties that are available and then contact us. So when they click on the particular property, it takes them to a link to us, and they'll start asking questions. Mark, what do you think about this property? And so on. So usually what'll happen is I'll engage in a dialogue and speak to what Canadians need to know about these properties. There's certain properties where the HOA, the Homeowners Association, which is the equivalent of the, I guess, what's it in BC, strata fees or condo fees.
Right.
As far as the contingency fund goes. So there's certain properties that we would rather steer our clients away from and sort of get them to properties that, we know our clients have already bought in. They've been there for a couple of years now, 2 or 3 years now. They know they like the property. There's not going to be the big surprise of, I bought this property and, what's going on with the management fee or things like that. So we typically will start the process off with a little bit of an education. And I think the things that Canadians really need to know most is that the buying process in the US is very different than what we're used to in Canada. And if I can, I'll give you a little bit of a quick education
for sure
on why that is so. In Canada, we'll go out with an agent, buy a property, and wait for the answer. If we're accepted on that property, then we have to put the deposit down. Correct? Mm-hmm. You're obliged, for that down payment, $10,000, $20,000 down payment. In the United States, what we'll do, because with the short sale, the foreclosures, it's not a cut and dry process. So we end up with a lot of our clients making more than one offer. So we could end up doing 2 or 3 offers on a different property. And let me kind of explain why we do that. The short sale is something that Canadians are becoming used to just hearing through the media. And if I can, let me sort of dispel some of the
myths.
Maybe with some of the myths of what's going on with the short sale. The short sale is one where the seller, the owner of the property, is trying to sell their property back to the bank for less than what is owed, which is a very common thing that's going on in the US right now, obviously,
right,
because most folks took 100% mortgages, are way underwater, and of course they're trying to get out of the property. So there's a couple things that are happening. Either A, we're waiting for the bank to respond, or B, we're waiting for the seller to get the proper paperwork to the bank so that the bank can respond. So I think that's the one where Canadians are puzzled the most by, because they'll make an offer and they may not hear something for 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 months, if anything, on that property. During that time, that could end up going to foreclosure, so they may end up waiting for the foreclosure to happen. The foreclosure properties are certainly ones that are much easier to obtain because the bank already owns the property and they're ready to move and they're ready to act on it. So those are the ones that we find, if they're priced well, and what I mean by priced well, they can, a purchaser, a Canadian, can go in, put an offer in on that property, and then purchase it, within a week's time. So, but it seems to be that the most properties that are coming up right now are the short sales. So what we end up doing is, a lot of our clients, have faith in us because they know they've purchased, they know us through other folks, is, we'll identify a property that they like, and then we'll start to make offers within that complex or within a couple different complexes. And then it's a bit of a waiting game. So we have to get the most important thing for our Canadian clients is we have to get proof of funds. And a lot of clients will use either a line of credit to purchase the property, which is a very good idea from where we stand. If they're going to use the property as an investment property, they can still deduct the interest from that line of credit. And I think that's something you help clients with as well, don't you?
Right, Mark. And just a quick question here. So you're talking about a line of credit that they're taking that we're doing. Like, for instance, I'm going to service a line of credit. I'm going to give them a line of credit on their house. Now you're talking about using that line of credit to purchase cash 100% that property. So maybe we can talk about two options. One is they take the line of credit on their house and they use it to totally buy the property full out 100% cash. And then where they might just take the down payment from their property here and try to get financing in the US. So what would be the minimum down payment and what would be the financing rate be like? And also the fact that you're talking about that short sale, obviously, in order to take advantage of it, it's better to have the cash, I would think. Is that correct?
It is, yeah. That's kind of where I was going with it, is that the banks will typically like to deal with the offers that are cash, because when they see a deal that has financing in place, sometimes things happen and they don't close. So the bank is always much more open to deals that are cash. Not to say that they'll look at a much lower offer. Usually they're looking to sell the property for what the market bears, and that's something really important that Canadians need to remember, is the properties are typically selling for close to what the market bears. So what I mean is recent sales. So if a Canadian is going to come in, use their line of credit, 100% down, they're going to show that they have that room available to purchase a property. Down payment, they're going to look at around $5,000 as a typical down payment on a home. But until they get acceptance on that property, no down payment is required. So I was telling you before, we'll put 2, 3, 4 offers in on properties.
So just is that down payment or deposit?
Or just deposit.
Deposit, okay.
Just deposit.
Yep.
So no funds will exchange hands until there's an accepted contract. But sometimes we'll have clients that will have 2 properties accepted all within a span of 48 hours. That gives them the chance to say, okay, well, I'll take property A or property B. And at which point, that's when they have to send their deposit down. Now,
so if an offer is accepted down there, after it's accepted, you then have the option to refuse?
Correct.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
That's the biggest difference I find that Canadians need to understand, because in Canada, you get accepted and you're on the hook.
Right. Big difference. Huge
difference. So it gives one that ability to see a few properties and make some choices.
Tie a few up.
Tie a few up, and you have to, because the short sale process could be so long. You might not end up hearing about one, and then eventually you'll get it. So that's why it's important that we encourage our clients to make bids on multiple properties if necessary. And that's not always the case, but sometimes the case.